You better watch this channel. You better watch all the videos. You better watch every single one right here at Good Mic Work Commentaries. Do it. Do it now.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back for the third night in a row as we put a nice little bow on WWE Hell in a Cell 2020 weekend. This is your WWE Raw review for October 26th, 2020. Show just wrapped up, and within the course of one show, the night after a pay-per-view, we pretty much had the entire Survivor Series card set. We know, I'd say, 80 to 90% of this thing already, which is a stark contrast from the pay-per-view we just had yesterday, where going into it on Friday, I think we had 3 matches announced. And here we are a full 4 weeks away from Survivor Series, and we pretty much know the whole thing. So that was set up tonight on Raw with some qualifying matches and some other things. So we'll have plenty to talk about here and the future, and maybe a few of our questions were even answered tonight as to why they went with the finish that they did last night with Randy Orton beating Drew McIntyre. It might become a little bit more apparent now, but we'll go through that and talk about it tonight. Throw me your letter grades, your number grades for the show tonight. Did you enjoy it? I think one thing that we're going to spend a fair amount of time doing is shitting all over Retribution, because it just gets worse and worse. I didn't think it could get any worse for them, but it has. Can I be heard, by the way? All right, yeah, I did have some internet buffering issues during Raw, and I even noticed a little stall during the countdown there. So hopefully we'll be all right tonight. But if anything happens, it's probably due to me having some shady internet tonight. I don't know, but we'll keep an eye on that. I apologize in advance just in case we have any technical difficulties. They're pretty rare. But anyway, let me say hi to everybody that's here in the chat so far. Good to see you in here, Big J, and how Wheezy's here. JJ Leg, Mr. E, Cody, and Taylor, and Arnez. Randy Peace. Ronnie is here. Cody, Supreme Championship Wrestling. The entire company, SCW. That's awesome. JL, Jet the Hawk. What's up, Barry? Shanus, Zap, and Roger. All right. Rarely even. Yeah. Good to see you back. You haven't watched wrestling since August. Did I miss anything good? Kinda. You missed a few things. Nothing spectacular. But it hasn't been horrible. You know, we've had some decent shows from both companies, AEW included, and NXT's put on some good stuff. And I think last night, a lot of people were saying in the chat last night during the review that they thought this was the best WWE COVID-era pay-per-view so far. And it's kind of hard to argue with it because all 3 Hell in a Cell matches were wonderful. So we're giving it 5s and 6. F from Jet the Hawk. Yeah, tonight was Retribution is resting. At this point, am I just the only one that thinks that maybe they're just trolling Ali? Did he piss someone off? Or is he just on their shit list or something? Like, it almost feels like him being on TV and having something significant to do is even worse than him just sitting and catering, because this is not helping him at all. This faction is so hokey, and they came in with all of this, you know, to strike fear, and they're a complete joke. WWE has complete control over them now. They're making their entrance through the regular stage. They're not getting booked on shows and booked on pay-per-views, and when they are, they're facing the Hurt Business and getting their asses kicked. I don't even understand. It's like WWE just, you know, maybe they felt like they couldn't drop it because they were a little bit too far into it, where with the hacker, they, you know, it was just vignettes, so they could, you know, they could drop it. Maybe they feel like they just got to bury the hell out of this and then have these guys all go their separate ways, do some big implosion angle where Mustafa Ali is all mad and he curses them all out, and then one at a time Dio Madden and Mia Yim and Dominic all go their separate ways and have singles runs. I don't know, but whatever they're doing, it's shitty. The entrance, they even have to shake the camera during the entrance, so we get those crazy, bizarre camera shakes enough in matches during offensive moves and stuff. Now they're doing it in during the entrance. It's kind of reminiscent, sort of, maybe of like Sanity, right? Maybe Sanity without it's almost the same thing, it feels like. Just a lot of just quick zooms and shit like that. It's disorienting. I don't like it at all. The whole presentation, the entire presentation of Retribution is a joke. And, you know, maybe WWE realizes that too. It's been weeks and weeks now with the fans kind of shitting on it. So what would you rather have? I know we're all like perplexed and we're wondering like, what the hell is WWE thinking? Burying the faction like this. Well, we're the ones that are kind of calling for it in their defense. I mean, wouldn't you rather see this than Retribution winning titles or something? I mean, I know we all like Mustafa Ali, but the faction has been somewhat comical. We've all been cracking, we've all been shitting on it. So they didn't give Ali a chance. As soon as he was revealed as the leader, they weren't even on TV the following week. So I don't know what their motivation here is. I don't know what's going on in their head or what they think they're gonna how they're gonna salvage this. But to me, it's unsalvageable. They just buried him. And if they think some post-match promo by Mustafa Ali erases the loss, they're full of shit. They're wrong. You know, the fans think this is a just ridiculous angle. It's a ridiculous faction. It's not over, and I guess they're maybe snuffing it out, you know, but put us out of our misery, please. You know, you don't need to do this anymore. Don't bring them out there for 2 or 3 more weeks in a row and just squash them. Just end it. If it's not going to go anywhere, just drop it. Fuck it. You know, I think if done right, if put a little more effort and thought was put into an angle like this, I think it had potential to... Talking again. There we go. All right, reconnection. So hopefully that didn't stall, but if it did, we're talking about Retribution. And when it comes to Mustafa Ali, you know, aside from, you know, him all of a sudden out of nowhere, like winning a title or something, you know, even that isn't going to be enough, I don't think, to really breathe any life to this. And if they now make this, if this is all part of a bigger story, you know, because like we said, he does have a story to go back to when he got injured and Kofi Kingston kind of got that spot that was rumored to belong to him. He's even made reference to that on TV a couple of times. And he's even kind of said that with a device, a laptop or a cell phone, he can ruin anybody's life. But, you know, he hasn't really done any of that either. So far he's a lot of talk. So if Retribution just loses a match and then he just cuts a promo and says, oh, it's no big deal, we still have work to do, how are we supposed to take this seriously? So I wonder if anything's going to come of these threats when he says that he can ruin somebody's life and reveal secrets about everybody in the WWE because he has access to all their shit because he was the hacker. A lot of that kind of is, you know, also illegal. So if he's admitting this on TV, isn't he incriminating himself? That, hey, I've hacked all these wrestlers' personal information, their phones, their private information, their pictures, their bank records, all this. He should be arrested, man. So I don't know. It's just a mess. And tonight was no different. We knew they were going to get beat by the Hurt Business, especially when MVP cut the promo saying that they kind of went to WWE and worked out an agreement saying, hey, we'll handle these guys, but you're going to have to pay us in gold. So they want title matches. And looks like they're going to be eyeballing the tags first. But, you know, other than that, like I said, we got the Survivor Series card pretty much laid out for us and some interesting matches set up for that since they're going back to the Raw versus SmackDown deal. And it was also filled with 3 qualifying matches tonight, with the winners qualifying to be on the Raw Survivor Series team, which I also think is kind of stupid. I don't necessarily hate the champion versus champion stuff, even though we just had Clash of Champions a month ago. There has been recent Survivor Series where those matches have been really good. AJ and Brock, Bryan and Brock, and we've had a couple of gems in there. So I'm open to this idea. I'm open to them doing this again. But the Raw versus SmackDown stuff is just silly to me because there should be no reason for the talent, the wrestlers, to give a shit about brand supremacy. Most of these guys were just on the other brand 2 weeks ago. Some of them on the brand the week before. There really is no brand split. Everybody hops from, you know, from brand to brand. You had a feud kicked off last night with Otis and Tucker, and both guys are on separate brands. So it means nothing at all, brand supremacy. At least put something on the line here. At least give the winning team automatic entries into the Royal Rumble, or give the winning team then has a 5-way, and the winner of that gets the main event at WrestleMania. I don't know, something. Give them some sort of a reward for teaming together, because what they're also going to do, and that they always do in these 5-on-5s, is they put enemies together on the same team. So if you notice tonight, prior to Keith Lee's qualifying match, he cut a promo on Braun Strowman. He says, I'm going to unleash a monster on him and he'll see what a true monster is, or whatever. What that tells me is they're going to put Braun Strowman on the Survivor Series team too. And then you're going to have that conflict. So not only are you going to have a match for brand supremacy that no piece of talent in that match should even care about to begin with, now you're having to pair them with people they don't even like. What is their motivation to even win this match, or better yet, qualify for the match? And I put on Twitter, I'm like, why would you have to qualify to be on the Raw team? I would lose on purpose. I would have no desire at all to be on the Raw team. I don't give a shit if my brand wins a 5-on-5 match or not. I don't care. I'd rather be involved in a bigger match or, for a title match or something. I'm not going to go out there and waste my time and put my body on the line for a brand that doesn't give a shit about me and tosses me around, ping-pongs me back and forth like I'm a worthless piece of crap. Why am I fighting for this brand? Why am I supporting this brand? Why am I proudly wearing its colors? It makes no sense. None of these wrestlers should give a shit. So the whole thing is just dumb, I guess. I would much prefer keeping the Survivor Series tradition alive with the 5-on-5s, but maybe do it like you used to do, where there would be like a storyline or something, or you'd have maybe 2 retired wrestlers that form a team, to fight on their behalves. Otherwise, you could have, you notice they did an elimination match tonight on Raw between Retribution and the Hurt Business. Isn't that a match that in your head you would have had penciled in for something like Survivor Series? Gave it away for free on Raw tonight. So a whole month ahead of Survivor Series, which shows you how worthless they must think Retribution is. I want to see the Hurt Business in an elimination match at Survivor Series. That would be awesome. So I wish that maybe there were some storylines that developed and you could do 1 or maybe 2 5-on-5s. Really 1 is all you need, I think, is the throwback to, 30 plus years ago, is just to do the 1 as the callback to the original show. And then you can do your other champion versus champion matches. But the fact that it has to be Raw and it has to be SmackDown versus each other, there's who are the fans going to root for, especially if both teams consist of an equal amount of baby faces and heels. The fans are just watching wrestling with no fan, even the most hardcore of WWE fans, do they really give a shit who wins either? No, they probably don't. I think it would be silly for any fan to prefer one show over the other when they both do the same thing and have the same talent. So they're the same show. But one, you get a blue intro, and the other one, you get a red one. Other than that, it's identical. So it's just, to me, the whole thing is just silly. So I just wish they could build an issue on TV that would slowly grow to where you could get a couple, group of people, or maybe, a tag team, or maybe just 2 singles wrestlers that are, at odds. And then, they somehow just form a team and they're with their buddies and they face off. I don't know, like you used to do back in the day. And a lot of teams back in the early Survivor Series days were kind of thrown together, but the team captains always had their issues. So, you could do something like that and then just make something on the line. Just mention a purse, mention money. Just say, yeah, the winners get $100,000 each. Losers get nothing or something, or I don't know, or get half or whatever the fuck. So put something, give them automatic entries into the Rumble, give a Soul Survivor a title shot, give them a chunk of money, make something else on the line other than, our show's better. Because otherwise, in my opinion, that makes no sense. What do y'all think about that? But in a nutshell, that was it, along with some pretty fun Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss stuff. I got a hat tip to Alexa Bliss because she's doing amazing in this kind of, she's almost kind of like acting like a little kid, almost like kind of juvenile, but creepy as shit at the same time, and it's like she's almost like, she's always been kind of smiley, but like she's got this disturbing type of smile where she really just doesn't seem all there. And when I pictured a female being paired with Bray Wyatt in the future, Alexa was like not even on my radar. She wasn't even somebody that I was thinking about. We were thinking about people like Nikki Cross, who another person that would have been great back in the day, like 20 years ago, would have been like Daphne from ECW and WCW. She would have been great. She screamed and did all sorts of crazy shit. So I kind of envisioned somebody like that, not like Alexa Bliss. I had Alexa Bliss, paired up with like Charlotte and people like that who just didn't seem like they would fit in that role, but she's doing it wonderfully. And I thought this was brilliantly casted, whether they meant to do it or not. I think maybe it was initially done just to be a part of the Strowman feud, but then when they realized they had something there, they turned it into more. And so far, so good. The Funhouse stuff tonight was fun. Alexa Bliss had the Moment of Bliss segment with Randy Orton on it, which is also pretty fun. And she is doing terrific in this new role. I like it. I'm excited to see where it goes. So we'll talk about that. We'll go through the show here bit by bit, match by match. Let me cruise over here, knock out a super chat that I saw coming in from our friend Chris. Good to see you, man. Appreciate the $5. In 1990 at Survivor Series, wasn't that part of the pay-per-view? Was there a final match or a lot of money? That was the year that they did the match of survival. They took all of the winners and then placed them in a final match. But it was so stupid because without any explanation, they just put the heels. It was just bad guys versus good guys. And so it was a handicap match. It was like a bunch of heels, Martel and Warlord and I forget who else. And then the baby faces were Hogan, Warrior, and Tito, I think. Tito got eliminated, and I thought, even back then, I was only 13, 14 years old. I knew that what they were doing is not having to have the Warrior or Hogan lose face. They both wanted to have their moment at the end of the pay-per-view, and Vince wanted to give them both the moment and not let either one, have a bigger night, even though it should have been Warrior considering he was champion. So it felt like it was just a way to appease their egos is the way I looked at it, because they never did it again. They never had another one of those matches again. It was kind of silly the way they worked it out, because it was they didn't even give you an explanation of why it was a handicap match. Shouldn't it be an even number on both teams? So they didn't even say, "Oh, here's your good guy, here's your good guys, here's your bad guys." It was just silly, probably a stupid idea. But at least that was something. At least that gave the guys incentive to make it to the end. And I'm sure back then they made it seem like every winner gets a piece of the purse, or a bigger purse. Gorilla Monsoon used to talk about that all the time. But nowadays, I don't know. There's no reason for me to care. Unless, the match is pretty good. And I don't remember what year it is. You guys have to help me. I'd say it was either 2016 or 17. It might have been 15 too. There was 15, 16, or 17, somewhere in there. There was the Raw versus SmackDown match was incredible. And it was an hour long. Help me out with what year that was. I think it might have been 17, because I was at Survivor Series in 2018 and the 5-on-5 was not nearly as good. So it was either the year before that or the year before that. I don't know. Help me with the year. But you guys know what I'm talking about. So at least maybe, even though we don't care who wins, the 10 guys can tear the house down, or as Alexa would say, burn the house down, and give us a great match. And actually make me care, because right now I don't. But anyway, let's start cruising through the results here a little bit at a time. We'll start off with our former WWE champion, Drew McIntyre, kicks off the show, and one thing I didn't like right off the bat is he came down to the ramp grinning. Giant smile on his face. No big whoop. Just had an incredible long WWE title run. I got beat by my nemesis, Randy Orton, who I've had a brutal rivalry with dating back to last summer, and I'm happy about this. He seemed, I don't know if he was trying to put on a brave face for the office or backstage, or show them that he could take losing the title and no heat or whatever, but he came out there with a big grin, and he says, hey, I got no excuses, I got beat, but he vows, he says, I will be champion again. So, we talked about last night about when he dropped the title. I was surprised, because I felt like that was not going to be the end of the Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton saga. I felt like there's got to be another match somewhere or down the road if Orton were to win, and that seems apparent tonight with the way the show went off the air. So that was kind of odd, but since it has been now revealed that Survivor Series will be Raw versus SmackDown, and they're doing the champion versus champion deal, maybe WWE didn't want to do Roman and Drew right now. Maybe that's why they took the title off of Drew. Remember they did the same thing in 2018? They put the title on Daniel Bryan right before Survivor Series, because AJ had wrestled Brock, I think, the year before in the champion versus champion match, and maybe they didn't want to do that 2 years in a row, even though I would have been fine with that. But Bryan made an interesting opponent too, especially when he turned heel and tied into all of that. The year before, AJ, I think, beat Jinder Mahal in England, right, or in London, to win the title, and then faced Brock at Survivor Series. So this is the second or third year in a row that they've done this. And Triple H even recently came out and said something to the effect that Roman and Drew could be like a Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan level match. I don't know. I think that's a stretch a little bit. But he kind of really put that matchup over, even though we just saw it at WrestleMania a year or so ago. He put that over as something to he planted the seed to keep a lookout for that in the future kind of thing. So maybe if they decided, hey, we're going to do the champion versus championship, but we don't want to do Roman and Drew right now. We don't want either one of these guys to get beat. You're not going to want to beat Roman, and then given the year the Drews had, you might not want to do that to him either. So maybe they got the title off of him, so they can have Randy Orton deal with Roman in the meantime, and then come back to Drew after the fact. Maybe he will in fact win the title back after we get to the beginning of the year or something like that, and he can have a little bit better of a moment. We talked about that as well. If Drew were to drop it and then win it back, I thought he was already going to do that. I had him losing. I picked him to lose at Clash. I didn't predict him to lose last night. I predicted him to win. I predicted him to lose in the ambulance match because I thought that was a great way for him to lose without having to get pinned or beaten, kind of clean type of shit. So I thought he would lose there and maybe regain in Hell in the Cell. maybe I was just a month off on that. Maybe he loses here. Orton does the Roman match, and then December or maybe Royal Rumble, instead of putting Drew in the Rumble again, he's got a title match with Randy Orton and he beats him. But then again, they might be going with the Fiend too. I don't know. Interesting. But anyway, he's talking. He vows to be champion again. Miz comes out. Of course, Miz won the Money in the Bank briefcase last night in that match with Otis. He comes out just talking some major shit. Bright blue suit. Morrison's talking smack as well. Drew warns him. He's like, "You dudes, I'm not in the mood for this nonsense." Miz does not care at all. He keeps running his mouth. Eventually, McIntyre, I was happy to see it too, because I'm like, I'm already annoyed that McIntyre came out there smiling. And if he's going to allow these two douches to talk this much shit to him without kicking the hell out of him, that's going to disappoint me a little bit. So finally, Drew has enough, and he just unleashes a vicious headbutt to Miz. He goes down, falls like a ton of bricks, and then he just beats the hell out of Morrison. Amazing sell job by Morrison. I don't know what he was doing, but one of the final throws, or the big belly-to-belly throws or whatever that Drew did to Morrison, when he sold that and he took the bump, he literally flopped like a fish and then rolled out of the ring. It was the funniest looking thing. It was so animated. It was almost Shane taking the stunner level of selling there. Pretty funny stuff. But I only caught it once. I want to go back and watch a replay of that, because just watching Morrison just flop all over the place was hilarious. So he beat the hell out of them. And then in one of the first disappointments of the night, he gets right in the camera as Miz and Morrison are retreating, and he says, "I'm going to go to management. I've got a little idea. I'm going to run by management." And I'm like, a little idea, huh? Maybe he's going to go to them and say, based on how, Miz kind of stole the briefcase with Tucker turning heel, why don't you let me face the Miz and put the briefcase on the line? I thought he was going to do something like that and actually take control of the briefcase, and then Drew has got it. And that might have been more interesting, and that would have explained why they put it on the Miz, so Drew didn't have to kill Otis for it. He can kill the Miz instead. That would be much more enjoyable to watch, type of thing, and then he can cash in down the road. But instead, we go to commercial. We come back to find out that his big idea that he was going to run by management was just a match with the Miz. So why do you have to say it like it's all secretive? "Oh, I got a big idea." It's just a match. That's not clever. It's a wrestling show. Of course you're going to propose a match. You should have proposed a stipulation. If you really want to get your hands on him, put it in a cage so you can just beat the hell out of him and murder him. Or say, hey, make him put the briefcase on the line. But instead it was just a match. So I'm like, okay, I don't know why Drew thought he was so slick just making the match there. I found that to be a little bit silly. Next up, we had our first match of the night was also our first qualifying match of the night. So we were going to have 3 one-on-one matches. Winners get spots on the Survivor Series Raw team. First one up is AJ Styles versus Jeff Hardy. AJ comes out. He's got his new big associate that he's calling him with him, and he says he doesn't like to be looked at, which I thought was funny. If he doesn't like to be looked at, just tell him to not be 9 feet tall, and maybe we wouldn't stare at him so much. But has a match with Jeff Hardy, winds up winning, beats him with a phenomenal forearm. After the match, Elias shows up in the ring and attacks and smashes a guitar over the back of Jeff Hardy. This is getting really old. I would be perfectly fine with never seeing another guitar shot again. It's just now that Elias is back. Didn't I say this when he first returned? I'm like, look out. He's going to go right back to being regular Elias again real soon. And that pretty much started tonight with everything he would do. And he would have a matchup here in just a little bit with Keith Lee. So AJ advances. He'll be now on the Survivor Series team. Jeff Hardy gets attacked after the match. And since Elias has a match later on, they pretty much telegraphed this. You knew Jeff Hardy was going to make an appearance and get some retribution there. So these two can continue their program, I suppose. After that, we had a clusterfuck of a match between Lucha House Party and Drew Gulak and Akira Tozawa. R-Truth got involved in this. He ran in the ring, and then everybody tried to pin him for the title. Got very confusing in the end. Gulak got pinned. Gulak's been getting pinned a lot lately. Here, when he had that short stint kind of working with Daniel Bryan, I thought there was potential. I thought Daniel Bryan was almost like hand-selecting him to say, I'm not going to be wrestling forever. This guy would be a perfect guy to kind of fill my void on the roster, my spoke in the wheel, the guy that can do what I do. And instead, he is just a complete fucking joke here. So Lucha House Party wins. Truth ran away. He was in there with his usual shenanigans, and that was what it was. Didn't pay much attention to that. Next, we had the Firefly Funhouse. This was great. I loved Alexa Bliss' involvement in this because she showed up in the Funhouse last week. This week, she makes Ramblin' Rabbit, I guess some tea. Does she make him some tea? And then she starts listing all of the things that are in the tea, and the final thing she says is arsenic. And then you look down at Ramblin' Rabbit, and it's like his face is like melting off, and so he's dead. So I enjoyed that. That was fun. We were going to see them later on in the main event with the Moment of Bliss segment with Randy Orton. So this week's Funhouse was pretty fun. We had the next qualifying match up after that. Keith Lee taking on Elias. Keith Lee cut a promo backstage prior to the match, and that's when he kind of called out Braun Strowman and said that he's going to show him what a real monster is and all this stuff. So they're going to continue their feud there. And like I said, I'll bet you anything that next week on Raw, Strowman will qualify, and they're going to put Lee and Strowman on the same team together. They do that shit all the time, which again kind of adds to why should any wrestler care? You know, why would anybody want to qualify for this thing? If I'm AJ Styles and I'm Sheamus, anybody else that qualified, I would be uncomfortable as hell going in there, risking my career in a big 10-man brawl, having to be on a team where members aren't getting along. You know, with them not getting along, that's putting me at risk. AJ Styles is 43 years old. He might still want to win another world title before he retires, and he's got to go risk his life in there on a team with these two giant elephants that can't stand each other. Like it's not a thing that you would want to fight to be a part of, which is why I think these qualifying matches are stupid. So anyway, Elias is taking on Keith Lee here. Not much to say about the match. Elias at one point gets up to the top rope, and that's when Jeff Hardy's music starts playing. So you think Jeff Hardy's going to do a run-in, but he doesn't. It's just the music. Keith Lee is able to grab Elias, throw him off the top rope, hit him with a spirit bomb, and get the pin and advance. So now you got Keith Lee officially on the Survivor Series team along with AJ Styles. And then after the match, 50-50 guitar shot booking here. Jeff Hardy shows up, blasts poor Elias in the back with the guitar. And prior to this match, too, by the way, I think it should be mentioned, because I said this was going to happen, Elias was in the ring. What did I say Elias does? You know, every single week, no matter what, heel or babyface, no matter what he does, it is the same thing. He's in the ring, he plays a song, either his opponent interrupts him or the person he's feuding with interrupts him. Every time. So here he is, he's about to play a song, and then Keith Lee comes out to interrupt and then beat him in the match. So we're going to get some sort of I guess this is probably going to lead to a gimmick match of some kind with Hardy and Elias. I don't think they're going to save this 4 weeks down the road for Survivor Series. We'll probably get this on Raw. Guitar on a pole match sounds likely at this point, given how many guitar shots we've seen in this thing. So, you know, we'll eyeball that, but it's not a feud that I give a shit about, you know, because it's the same thing with Elias. He's just constantly in just one like kind of meaningless feud that you don't feel. You know, think about the emotion and the intrigue involved in like the Roman Reigns and Jey Uso feud, and then think about this. You know, and Elias is talented. He's got the great look. I said last night he can be like a modern day Magnum TA, and instead he's the exact opposite of that. He's got a spot on TV every week, but there's no room for growth, you know, at all with him. I don't ever think he's going to challenge really for anything, and he's just going to be Elias on TV every week, like he always is, with very little difference and deviation from that at all. Next up is our wonderful 8-man elimination tag. This was good, huh? Hurt Business versus Retribution. Elimination first. This was slightly interesting because there was a funny spot in the match, but otherwise this was a complete just annihilation of Retribution. Even their entrance is horrible. Even their entrance is just as bad as their matches and their whole entire gimmick. They're coming down to the ring, and it's just the shaky ass camera. I don't know what they're trying to do or why they think this looks cool or why they think this is good at all. You know, Sanity had a similar entrance, and that I like. That felt different. This just looks hokey, just dumb. So anyway, they do their shaky ass camera entrance. They get in the ring. Hurt Business comes out, and like I said, they have agreed with WWE that they will take care of the Hurt Business if they get rewarded with gold. So they're going to be getting title shots out of this. They already have some gold in the faction already with Bobby Lashley. They're looking to add more. That's why they're volunteering themselves to kill these idiots. Now, it's an elimination tag. So things start out in the match. We get the first elimination of MVP because Mia Yim, all of a sudden, MVP's beating the hell out of Bisquick or something in the ring. And then all of a sudden, what is Mia Yim's name in the Retribution anyway? I forget. Reckoning? So Reckoning She gets up on the ring apron and she just starts like freaking out. Like get it off me, get it off me. She's like clawing at her skin, like there's bugs crawling all over her or something. And then she falls to the mat, rolls under the ropes, rolls in the ring, and just starts spazzing out like there's things crawling all over her. And because she's a woman, nobody's like kicking her ass. MVP's kind of standing there like, what the hell is going on? I look over at Twitter and everybody's like, what the fuck? I thought she was doing an impression of the deleted scene in My Girl that involved Macaulay Culkin when he got stung by the bees. I didn't know what was going on there. She was just freaking out. And then all of the distraction allowed MVP to get rolled up and eliminated. And then they went to commercial. So you're thinking that my first thought was, okay, maybe they're realizing that Mia doesn't have that much of a purpose in Retribution. She's almost too good for them. Get her the hell out of there before you ruin her. So maybe they were going to have her be possessed by the Fiend or something, or maybe something was going on and this whole this hallucination or whatever was going on with her as a way to get her out of Retribution. But they go to commercial, they come back, and it was just a ruse. They show that during the commercial break, she just got up and started laughing. I was playing the whole thing off, and it was just done as a really over-the-top distraction. Referee gets pissed and tosses her out. So that whole thing that I thought was going to be, maybe the beginning of a new angle or a new twist on Retribution, because that's what they need. They need to give us a what the fuck moment, and that's what that was with Mia freaking out like that. I'm like, oh, what does this mean? Turns out it means nothing. She got tossed out. After that, we had who got eliminated next? There we go. Lashley beats Bisquick, and he's gone. Lashley and T-Bone or T-Bar then get a double count out. They're brawling on the outside, and you could tell as soon as the referee started loudly counting to like 2, I'm like, oh, it's going to be the double count out thing. They do that in every elimination match. 2 guys always brawl, get counted out, which means that those 2 guys are kind of targeting each other, and I worry that T-Bone might even win the United States title. I kind of hope not. After that, Shelton eliminates Hairspray, and then Ali is down 2-1. It's Shelton and Cedric against Ali. He gets DQ'd. He uses a chair and winds up getting disqualified, and 2 members of the Hurt Business survived there, and the entire Retribution faction was eliminated again. And then later on backstage, we got the promo with Ali saying their work is not done. So I don't know why at this point they don't just give up. Such a mess. But anyway, so Retribution is done. I don't know what else WWE can do to them to bury them any further. And I'm not even a big, guys know I'm not a big fan of the term buried, but that is literally what's happening here. They are just being buried to shit. There's no recovering from this. It seems like WWE has given up. And how bad does Ali must feel? Unless WWE is just trolling us again, and this is going to lead to, something else for Ali, something better, and they're going to show, and he's going to use this as ammunition for his next deal. Look, you screwed me over and gave Kofi my spot, then you took away my hacker gimmick, then you gave me Retribution, and, you buried it in the ground within the first 2 weeks. Enough is enough. It's time for a change. And, he goes in a different direction or something. I mean, at this point, that's the only thing that could even come close to saving this. But otherwise, I would just cut my losses and end this nonsense because it's silly. You can't bury them any further. So if Ali is aware of this, and obviously he hears the criticism, he sees it online, he knows what the fans think of this thing. Imagine him having to go out there and give his all, and try not to hide how disgusted he is with the whole angle. He seems like he's still taking it seriously. When Retribution, when they were making their entrances, they're all doing little things. They seem really amped up, especially Bisquick. He's very hyper. But I don't know why. This is just shit. If I was in this faction, I would just come out there like I wouldn't even care. I'd be doing the Brody Lee at the when the plane was delayed in Saudi Arabia, just looking right at the camera like, this is horse shit. Like, get me the hell out of this company. So again, Retribution is dead in the water. Anyway, after that, this was funny. We cut backstage and we see, it fooled me for like a half a second. We see the New Day, but they're dressed as the Street Profits. And I think Xavier's Montez and Kofi's Dawkins, I think. And they've got the solo cups, and Kofi is brilliant. He keeps looking at the cup like, wait, there's nothing in here. And he keeps just looking at the cup again, like, why would I be holding an empty solo cup? That's silly. Did a pretty good impression of the guys, and this whole segment was done as a way to announce what they're going to be doing at Survivor Series. And the first thing that they announce, which you knew as soon as you saw the New Day dressed as the Street Profits, like, oh shit, they're going to do the champion versus champion deal. I would love more than anything for this to be a unification. That's another thing that WWE is trolling us on. I think every wrestling fan agrees that they should unify the tag team titles, and I think this is the second Raw Tag Team Champions versus SmackDown Tag Team Champions match we've had in the last couple of months, because didn't they do one at Clash of Champions as well with Cesaro and Nakamura and Profits, right? So they're going to go in that direction. So they announced the match. I'm sure it would be really cool on Friday to see Street Profits dress as New Day. They probably will. That'll be pretty entertaining, I'm sure. Asuka shows up to join the new Profits, and she says she wants the smoke, and they announce that she'll be taking on Sasha Banks, and Sasha is now the SmackDown Women's Champion, so there'll be a champion versus champion match there. And then you pretty much knew what that meant, that we were going to get the world champions facing each other as well, and it will be Randy Orton taking on Roman Reigns, and they announced that. So we pretty much got everything there. We even got the IC and the US title announced because the Hurt Business showed up, and then MVP announced that it's going to be Bobby Lashley taking on Sami Zayn. So we got Lashley and Zayn, Orton and Reigns, Sasha and Asuka, and New Day and Street Profits, along with the 5-on-5 Raw and SmackDown match. And I don't know, is NXT going to be a part of this? Last year that was kind of fun, but so far it's looking like they won't be, unless they want to throw Io Shirai into this women's match or something. Looks like it might just be a Raw versus SmackDown deal. I don't know, but that right there is a good portion of the card. Other than those matches and the 5-on-5, what could they really add? We might just get one or more. Like I said, I think 90% of the card is pretty much set now. All we have to do is determine who the team members are, which I don't care. And that's pretty much the deal. Home Cow Gaming is late. That's okay. We forgive you here in the chat. You guys do me a favor. That is a really sad amount of likes. Can you guys help me out and smash that thumbs up button for me? Greg, you honestly don't think Randy Orton deserved another title reign because this past year he's been lackluster? I thought Randy Orton's work has been some of the best of his career in the last year. The Edge stuff was just great. I think Randy Orton continues to prove year after year, how good he is. The dude does not age. His wrestling style and everything he does in the ring has remained intact. He's never had any super serious injuries. He's evolved a lot in his, professionally and personally. Back in the day, he was kind of a douche and he had some attitude problems and he had some wellness policy violations, a couple of suspensions. He had some D-pushes and he had to eat shit a couple of times, and he always kind of came back and he always just proved himself as a valuable asset. And here in his, kind of like the twilight of his career, now that he's had his best days behind him, to still be able to perform at this level and win championships, I'm fine with him winning another one. Especially now, I'm probably more okay with him winning now than a couple of his runs earlier in his career, to be honest. Even 2004, I think it was a little bit too early for him, and I think the only reason they really put the belt on him against Benoit was because they were pissed at Brock, and they wanted to have another guy that they can say is the youngest champion ever. Without Brock leaving, I don't think you're doing that match with Benoit. I think Orton still gets the title. I think Orton is still a 13, 14, 15-time champion, but I think it starts a year or so later for him than it did. So I'm actually perfectly okay with him holding the title. I'm an Orton fan. I'll always have Orton's back. He's great. Oh, I know, yeah. Randy, of course, Randy is boring, but younger fans and more modern fans' definition of boring and mine are completely two different things. I'm more I can appreciate things. Yeah. Oh, I haven't seen that, Madeline, on the Untold. Orton said nobody hates the old him more than he does. He has grown tremendously, and it's incredible. Yeah, especially if especially when you're in the public eye, and you make mistakes and you get older and you just wise up and you're like, God, I cannot believe I did that. I got a bunch of things in my life like that. There's who I watch on YouTube sometimes is Steve-O from Jackass, and he's lucky to be alive basically, and he's in this he is completely sober and clean now, and he's very he's very dedicated. He still works really hard. He still does stunts. He's got a podcast. He's very active, very busy, and he stays busy. And he's turned into quite the businessman. He finds all sorts of different ways to make money, and he's cool and clean now, and he is mortified at his old self. And what makes his situation even more interesting, one of those videos I watched recently where he said this. He goes, "What makes my situation so interesting is not only was I just a completely strung out, drug addicted asshole who treated everybody like garbage and was completely out of control and completely out of my mind. Like nearly every single minute of those years is on tape because he recorded everything in his apartment. He'd always have cameras rolling. He showed a room, just full, the entire floor just covered, and just all these tapes of him just recording himself back in those days. And he goes, when I have to make videos about my, having to go back and look at that, he's like, he goes, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. So imagine making all those mistakes and then having it all on video for you to go relive and stuff. So, somebody who's like Randy Orton in the public eye like that, they have a lot of regrets. And all they can do is just do better from it. And that probably motivates them to continue working hard and say, okay, the only thing I can do now is just continue to work hard and try to help out the next stable, the next crew that's coming through. So I have no issue with Randy Orton. Randy Orton's a professional wrestler, and his family ain't too shabby either. I grew up watching Ace Orton, I got respect for the Ortons, and but most modern fans don't because they just don't know shit. Taker in a bingo match. All right. That's about all he can do, I suppose, at Survivor Series. So along with all of those Raw versus SmackDown matches, we're going to get the big Taker tribute. So I wasn't sure how they were going to do that, if it was going to be something. It'll probably be a deal where they'll show classic moments throughout the show or whatever, and then, whatever they do for The Undertaker, I'm hoping it'll be something in the ring. And it'll be curious. A year and a half ago, prior to COVID, I did an entire video in the summer of 2019. And I was like, next year they should do Undertaker's send-off and his retirement at the Survivor Series, and then he can go into the Hall of Fame the final year of WrestleMania. And I kind of envisioned something similar to Ric Flair. The send-off that Flair got was so incredible. Best send-off anybody will ever get. And the only person that, could really have one like that, I think, would be The Undertaker, given all his years in the company and stuff. But then COVID changed everything. So they're acknowledging it. They're going to pay tribute to the 30th anniversary. I think that's great. So it'll just be interesting to see what they do. I like the idea of doing a face-to-face with Sting. I don't want a match, but I just think to see the two of them in the ring together and, I don't know, a shake of the hand or something, and then two schmucks, the Singh brothers or something, run out there to talk shit, and they just Scorpion death drop them and choke slam them and have the moment together. I don't know. Might be fun. And that's all. That's all you do. No match, no nothing. Just that. But it'll be cool to see maybe Kane come back for that and make an appearance as well. I'd love to see Ted DiBiase, Brother Love. Everybody in that whole opening situation is alive, because Paul Bearer hadn't joined him yet. So, if they brought back in DiBiase, I think that would be cool to recreate it. I think it'd be awesome to recreate it. I pitched the idea the other day when we were talking about maybe playing The Undertaker's entrance from his debut, like all around the video wall, like through the Thunderdome, where it's just this like 360-degree entrance of the 1990 Survivor Series. Or you bring Ted out there, and say, I would like to introduce, led to the ring by his manager, Brother Love, The Undertaker, and then have him come out to that old music, maybe even in his old gear, and have Bruce trailing him to the ring. And just, and while that's going in real time, then you play the old entrance on the dome, and you just do them in sequence or split screen them. I don't know, something like that I think would be fun. Be fun for a fan like me to see. Something like that I think would be cool. But then again, he could just come to the ring, cut an Undertaker promo, and be done with it. So we'll see. I don't know, Anthony. Who do I think is the next member of the Fiend family after Alexa? I wasn't even thinking there would be more, but I suppose there could. I mean, the Fiend could build a family, a really, really creepy-ass family. I don't know if they'd go, I don't know if he'd build a faction of women. He might. So I don't know. I think probably maybe not Nikki Cross. We've recently got the Walrus puppet, and now we've got Alexa. So I don't know if you need to add very quickly here. This should be a very, very slow type of ordeal if it grows. I don't know. And I don't know if I'd add a male wrestler. I don't know if I'd add anything. I'd probably be careful with what you did with the Fiend family. Yeah, Marcus Metcalf, you are not going to convince me. I completely disagree. I think Randy Orton's great. You can hate him all you want, but if he's boring to you, fine, but he ain't boring to me. Yeah, I did too. The tribute Taker and Kane did for Bear when he passed was pretty cool. Still, I think the only time too, when the Undertaker showed up at the Hall of Fame, is the only time he's ever been seen at the Hall of Fame. Yeah, Todd, that's the famous Piper's Pit where Andre challenged Hogan. I watched that live as a kid. Well, not live; it was obviously a taped segment, but I watched it air the day that it aired, and it was the first time I think I can remember. I don't know how to describe the feeling, but you know, like when your heart almost like sinks or you gasp or it almost like really terrifies you. Like I remember watching that and already kind of seeing, because the Piper's Pits that led up to that, you could tell Andre was pissed, something was up, and I'm like, oh my God, what's he going to do? And then he showed up with Bobby Heenan and he says, I'm going to challenge you at WrestleMania. I remember my heart like almost like fluttering with this like nervous energy, like holy shit. And then he ripped off the shirt and Hogan's bleeding. It's pretty traumatic, you know, for a kid my age back then to watch that and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of a pretty significant moment in my my wrestling life. So I got a photo in the back. Where did I leave off here? We were still talking about the Funhouse, right? Oh no, we talked about the Survivor Series card. There we go. There's my notes. Had them a little bit mixed up there. So anyway, after that we had the Drew McIntyre. And after the elimination match, we had the Drew McIntyre and Miz match. Now, this is the match that I thought Drew was going to be a little bit more creative with and maybe have the briefcase on the line or something like that. Just turns out to be a straight-up match. He just wants to kill the Miz. He does, beats him with the Claymore, and that's that. So in terms of the Miz, when he's going to cash that thing in, we talked last night. I said if he doesn't capitalize like the very next night on Raw and do something, I think they're going to wait a while, because tonight the Miz exemplified exactly why I say guys like him should hold on to the briefcase for a while, because he can be obnoxious. He can come out there and just dangle it and taunt everybody. I've got the case. I'm going to cash in. He can be, you know, he can pick his moment. He's got all the way until June next year. There is no rush with him. And to have him on TV for months or weeks being an asshole with that briefcase is going to make you know, maybe make the payoff even that crazier, especially if he wins. But if he loses and he fails, that'll be enjoyable as well. And I think WWE also wants to wait their time too. It's not like they have shit figured out. They have no idea what they're going to do. But right now, based on who the champions are, Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton, or Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns, and now Randy Orton is the champion, none of those three guys seemed really likely candidates for The Miz to cash in on. I think Randy Orton would be cool, because of the throwback to 10 years ago. Miz made mention of that tonight, even shouted out the Miz Girl or Angry Miz Girl in the promo. So he alluded to that, but I still don't think, like, what if he would have cashed in? Then what, Miz versus Roman Reigns? Do you think Miz wants anything to do with that either? You know, he'd be killed. So he's just not in the position. There's not a champion, I think, vulnerable enough or ripe enough to get beat by the fucking Miz for the title. So I think they've got some time to worry about it. They got 9 more months or whatever it is before he has to cash that thing in, maybe 8. So that's a long time. So there's no rush here. Wait and see what your situation is next year. Wait and see what your situation is around WrestleMania time, or after WrestleMania even would probably be a better time for him to put that on the line. And who knows, by then maybe he'll drop the briefcase to somebody else. The briefcase is becoming a title. They should do a match where it's like it's a Money in the Bank match. So it's a ladder match, and the winner can challenge for the Money in the Bank briefcase anytime they want within a year. That would be way too confusing. So anyway, with The Miz, I wouldn't rush it with him and just let him be an asshole on TV. And I think even down the road, too, something could play in with Morrison. You know, he kind of feels like he's been left out in the dust here. I feel like he has. You know, why did The Miz get the contract, and why is Morrison even tolerating it? Remember when he first issued the lawsuit to Otis, and then Morrison seemed surprised to learn that his name wasn't on it. It was only The Miz. He forgave him for that. So, you know, maybe this could be setting up a split between them when The Miz cashes in and then Morrison stops him and prevents him, costs him the win, and then boom, you got your Miz and Morrison feud, and the briefcase shit is out of the way. They could be building to that too. Survivor Series, Roman and Drew, with a lot of moving pieces there. Roman could have the Usos hovering around. Orton could have McIntyre and The Fiend be an issue there. So if anybody jumps in, if The Fiend or McIntyre beat the hell out of Orton, or if the Usos beat the hell out of Roman, somebody could be laying there completely unconscious in the middle of the ring after the match for the Miz to come down and pin. And it could be Randy Orton. And Miz is champion. My God. Yikes. After that, we got some news on the women's Survivor Series match. Adam Pearce and Pat Buck are in the ring. Maybe this is, Adam Pearce has been slowly being integrated more and more on TV. He's been featured more. His segments are growing, a little bit more screen time, a little bit more mic time as we go. I almost wonder if this was his GM tryout or something. Maybe they're seeing how he does in the ring, on the mic, making matches and shit, because at some point they might have to just kind of make an on-air authority role. I wouldn't mind that, as long as they're not like the Authority was, and they're not just on TV every week, opening and closing every segment, and they have more of a William Regal type of role in the company where he only appears when he needs to. That would be really good for Adam Pearce. I'd be totally all for that. So he's in there with with Pat Buck, and they announced the Raw Women's team for Survivor Series. It's going to be comprised of 2 tag teams, the champions, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, and Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. So that's 4. And then they said the final member is going to be decided in a fatal 4-way. Not that we need that. So they didn't even bother going through qualifiers for the women. They just announced 4 of them and then made 1 qualifier, which is going to be a fatal 4-way with Peyton Royce, Lacey Evans, Nikki Cross, and Lana. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, Lana won. Lana is now the 5th person on the team. She scoots out of the ring, and of course, the people on the outside there have been putting her through tables for 5 weeks. And Nia Jax just grabs her, even though she's her teammate, tells everybody move out of the way. Boom, Samoan drop right through the table 6 weeks in a row. I'm curious how many weeks they do it to her. Like, at some point, it's got to hurt your back, So anyway, that's the team now. We'll see who they face over on the SmackDown side. I can't even think right now. Who's it going to be? Bianca Belair, maybe? Bayley. Probably Bayley. And some other jabronis. We'll see. What was next? Next up, we had that stupid Retribution promo. That was dumb. And then we had Sheamus and Matt Riddle. So this is our final qualifier of the night. And, Matt Riddle, this was a pretty good match. I liked it because it was hard-hitting. It was just brutal. They just beat the hell out of each other. Just a lot of just hard, just blunt force shots to the back and the neck and the meat of the bodies here. Pretty good stuff. And in the end, I kind of had in my head picked Sheamus. I was like, I feel like Sheamus will qualify here. Because I still think Matt Riddle, they're treading water with him until they feel comfortable or whatever, which is kind of a shame. But I feel based on some of the losses Sheamus has suffered lately and everything, and now he's on the Raw brand, he'd probably put down Riddle here. He did. In the end, he hit him with a brogue kick and pinned him, and he is now qualified. So we've got Sheamus, Keith Lee, and AJ Styles have qualified for the Raw team. That's 3 out of 5. Next week, they'll do the other 2. And like I said, I would bet my middle nut that it'll be Strowman. It feels like it has to be Strowman because they're going to want that conflict with Lee and Strowman on the same team and all that shit. And they'll probably brawl and get themselves counted out. And then we'll have one more person added to the match. I don't think it'll be a Hurt Business person. You guys throw out who's going to be, aside from Strowman, who's going to be the last member there. Do you think it'll be a new person like Davikato or something like that? Or maybe a Riddick Moss randomly? I don't know. Who are we missing? Who's left that can be on the team? Doesn't make any sort of sense at all. Jeff Hardy's been eliminated. He's going to be doing something with Elias. So, yeah, I don't know. Christian Cruz, I hope you're right. I hope Shayna is the sole survivor. I hope she just wipes out everybody. What was the match that she recently did that in? Was it the Chamber? I think it was the Chamber, right? Wasn't the Elimination Chamber before WrestleMania and she just wiped them all out, tapped every one of them out? Something like that. I'd love to see that here, especially if it's a team of J-Brones over on the SmackDown side. Because I don't want to see her, murdering Bianca Belair or anything like that. But, if they put, if it's just a bunch of mid-level women or if it's just like Naomi and Mickie James, they're not even on SmackDown. But people like that, I'd love to see her choke at least 3 of them out. That would be awesome. Nia Jax, of course, is claiming herself to be the leader or the captain of the team, and Shayna's like, oh yeah, Drew McIntyre, duh. Yeah, Strowman and Drew could be on it. I don't know. I think they might keep Drew out of it just to put him somewhere in that main event. I don't know. Ricochet could be Ricochet. That's true. Could be Truth. Could be Samoa Joe. He should hop his ass off of commentary and get in there. Yeah, that was the year I was there. That was the year I think Joe got eliminated in like the first minute or something in the match by a Claymore. Did Nia say get the table tonight? Somebody I think told me on Twitter that she did. I didn't catch it. And she say like, Shayna, get the table. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm reading all these comments right now. Yeah, and that's the thing with the Survivor Series teams, the blend of heels and baby faces. I'm curious, how many of the, is going to be on both teams, because that's when it just becomes really, you're making it even harder, for the fans to choose a side, especially the younger fans, like who are they cheering for here? Both teams consist of people they like and don't like. So it's just kind of weird how it's all put together these days. I'm not a huge fan. Anyway, we'll answer some questions here. Oh, Bianca Belair being the sole survivor. I'd actually be down with that, Deshaun, because you could get Shayna Baszler out of that without having to beat her or pin her or anything like that. All you got to do is have some dissension with her and Nia Jax. Them not getting along. She can score a quick roll-up, or she can brawl with somebody. Or you'd have Bianca Belair catch a pin on her or something. That would help Bianca. Might help her get a title shot on her own side there. But Bianca Belair being a sole survivor, and then you have her go into the Royal Rumble and win that too. That would be a great way to start building her for potentially WrestleMania. Would love to see Bianca and Sasha, for the title at WrestleMania. I'd be totally into that. I also, I think Edge can turn back up soon. I think now that Randy Orton has the title, that's interesting. That means when Edge comes back, we could be on the verge of a nostalgia run from Edge. And like I said last night, I'd be totally into that. Comes back, spears Randy Orton, beats him. I know. We've been getting the Brock Lesnar versus Small Dude matches at Survivor Series lately, and it's going to be the first one we're not going to get that. I'm curious. I'm somewhat intrigued in the Randy Orton and Roman Reigns match because it makes me think of Randy Orton and Brock from SummerSlam. And I wonder if like Roman Reigns will do something similar to Randy, where he just beats him bloody or whatever. But I think it's got to be a way to make Roman still look super strong, but at the same time, you might not just want to Superman punch and spear and just beat Orton dominantly. You might want to have some pieces in there, like a Bray Wyatt, like an Alexa Bliss appearance, or the lights going down like they did tonight and coming back up, and you hear the music, and and all of that, and then that can allow enough distraction for Roman Reigns to catch him with a spear and pin him, and then he'll be pissed off at the Fiend, and then I want a match and all of that. Drew McIntyre could show up in that match as well and get involved. They can do a number of different things there, but in the end, I think, Roman's got to win that. And it would be cool, too, to see, like, the Usos, like we talked about. I think the Usos are going to fall in line at first reluctantly, but then in the end, they might, wind up making it a mutual alliance with Roman Reigns. And they can form their faction, the Roman Empire, or whatever they call it. They can make an appearance, especially if they're off TV and we don't see them for a while, and they come back at Survivor Series and help Roman beat Randy Orton. That's possible. Because Randy Orton is a pretty formidable opponent for Roman. It should make for some interesting TV. But now that what all that means is now we're going to have to get these guys on separate brands again. Again, right after the draft, we're going to see, Orton on SmackDown to confront Roman and Roman on Raw and shit like that. So there will be a night. That actually might be interesting in the future here, probably next week or the week after, when they bring Roman to Raw. And he does that Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman shtick on Raw. Might be kind of fun. But anyway, enough about the Survivor Series matches. The final segment of the night was our Moment of Bliss segment with Randy Orton. He was interviewed backstage prior to the segment and talked about the Fiend and says he's going to be keeping an eye out for him, and he knows he's probably lurking. And Alexa Bliss, like I said, she's doing a great job kind of being this goofy little character, and she's got this big grin on her face when she talks and she introduces Randy Orton. He says, he goes, "Look, girl, I know Bray Wyatt better than anybody. I know what he's capable of." And he repeatedly asks her, where Bray Wyatt is, where the Fiend is. And that's when Drew McIntyre comes out. Drew's music hits. Randy Orton doesn't get his answer. He comes down. They start brawling. While they're brawling, Alexa Bliss is up sitting in the corner, laughing her ass off. It's just sadistically laughing her ass off, which I thought was great. That's when the lights go out. They're out for a few seconds. They come back on. You got Drew in the ring, Randy on the stage, and he's kind of backing off. And then it occurs to Randy, you can see it's on his face. He's like, "Oh, shit, the Fiend's behind me." And he's kind of like slowly glancing. You think he's going to eat a mandible claw, and I think even Randy Orton thought that as well, that I need to prepare to be choked out here. But instead, Drew, I think, came out to get him, and the brawl continued while the Fiend just stood there. The Fiend and Alexa kind of just watched these two brawl with each other. Pretty much, I think, until the show went off the air. I don't think the Fiend got his hands on anybody. He just kind of stood there. So that's, I guess, your title situation on the other side of Survivor Series. The Fiend is making it known that he wants to be a part of this. Drew McIntyre is still going after Randy Orton. So that tells me we're also probably going to get like a fourth match. So I don't know what they do. Do we wait until after Survivor Series? And then what is December? Are they still doing TLCs in December? You don't do a TLC match, do you? With Orton and Drew? Or a ladder match or something like that. That would be a good place to reintroduce Edge if he came out there and attacked Randy Orton in a ladder match, allowing Drew to win his belt back. And then maybe even Drew could slowly turn heel or something. I don't know. Maybe Drew could win the title back in that fashion, turn heel, and then when Big E wins the Royal Rumble, he could jump to Raw and challenge Drew. I don't know. But I also like the idea of having Edge be the champion. So I don't know. All depends on Edge's progress when he's coming back and everything. But if Orton is the champion and Edge is back, I think you should do something there. Maybe have the Fiend beat Edge, and then maybe Drew beat the Fiend at WrestleMania. I don't know. There seems like a million different, twists and turns you can go. I don't feel, though, that Randy Orton is going to have a terribly long run. Like, I don't know if he holds it until WrestleMania. I think there's a potential he could drop it prior to that. And have Roman be the guy that's going to have the long run into WrestleMania and dropping it. I think maybe there could be some hot potatoing going on here. We'll see. But the main event segment told me that not only is the Fiend in the title picture, that Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton's business is not finished. So if it was up to me, I'd book this match for a Raw in 3 weeks or something. Some big rematch, or maybe after Survivor Series, just do it on Raw. Big title match, just to do the rematch and get it out of the way. To where if you don't want the belt to go back on Drew in the near future, then just do the rematch as quickly as possible. Do it on Raw in 2 weeks ahead of Survivor Series. Have Randy Orton escape somehow with help from the Fiend or somehow. And he leaves with the title, and that sends Drew off in another direction. I don't know. I like the idea of a McIntyre and Fiend feud. I like the idea of an Orton and Fiend feud. I like the idea of a triple threat. Randy versus Drew versus the Fiend. Because Randy and Bray go way back. We've seen what they've done together and had WrestleMania matches and title matches against each other. Triple threat at the Rumble. I love that idea. I just wonder if they can stretch it that long. I mean, we're still in October, and it feels like all of this got kicked off tonight. So that would have to be 3 months from now that would have to last to do the triple threat. And by then, I'm kind of hoping that like Edge will be back and shit like that. So I don't know. I definitely think a triple threat is possible, but I think it might be sooner than the Royal Rumble. Bray is winning the Rumble. He is. All right, Christian. We got a WWE writer in the chat here. No, I'm kidding. I don't even think WWE knows who's winning the Rumble yet. I think Big E would be more fun. The Fiend has got so much craziness. He doesn't need a Rumble victory. Although he could win it pretty easily because he can play so many mind games and do so many magic tricks by cutting off the lights and showing up and hiding under the ring or doing whatever. He could just show up there and win it in the end. And you got the Miz. Don't forget the Miz is the satellite that's revolving and orbiting around this whole mess with all these guys. So that's actually kind of fun on the Raw side of things, that you do have, a lot of questions in terms of the WWE title and where it can go. Randy Orton's immediate opponent is coming up in a non-title match at Survivor Series against Roman Reigns, but he's got another match clearly with Drew McIntyre on the horizon at some point. You got The Fiend lurking around, wants a title shot, and you got The Miz, in the background there with the briefcase that can jump on and take advantage of an opportunity anytime he wants. So that's kind of cool because it keeps us on our toes, but at the same time, it's probably going to do a lot to trip up and confuse WWE because they're not really capable of walking and chewing gum at the same time. So they're going to have to figure out, how to do this to where it's just not stupid and they don't screw it up. Like, think it through. Think about, how all this can make the most sense with all 5 of these guys, going into 2021. Make it fun. Make it fun. Jinder Mahal wins the Royal Rumble. No. I like Jinder, but no. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one, Madeline. I don't feel like the Fiend would be in the Royal Rumble either. How Wheezy, what's up, dude? Thanks for the $2, man. Your profile picture is so small it looks like you're in prison, like you're wearing an orange prison. How Wheezy doing time? Super chatting from the clink. Thanks, dude. Good to see you. I want Bianca to win the Rumble too. I've been saying for the last few weeks should be Biggie and Bianca. Those would be my top 2 in terms of, hey, look, let's make a new person, win the Rumble, new opportunity for a new person, fresh face, WrestleMania. Wins the title, heartwarming moment, New Day reunion, Bianca Belair celebrating with the Street Profits. That'd be fun stuff, man. I'd be totally into that. Todd, I like that. I think maybe Orton. Do I think Bray is controlling Orton or Drew? I would like that to be the case. I'd like to add something like that. I've already thought about that with Randy Orton because of their history. And I'm like, I wonder if Randy Orton could actually realign himself with the Fiend. All 5 of Elimination Chamber, you could do that too. But the Elimination Chamber is usually the backup to the Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble determines one title shot, Chamber determines another. So I don't know. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I like that idea. Like, I'm envisioning it on my head what Christian Cruz is proposing here. They won't have Miz cash in on a heel champ. He'll cash in on Edge eventually. Yeah, I think if Miz, for the better effect, cashing in on a babyface champion is the best. However, the only hole in that I see possibly is that if Edge does win the title, I think if you're giving a previously retired wrestler making a comeback the title in like a nostalgia run, they need to drop it clean to somebody. I mean, there's no rule on that. It doesn't have to be that way. Just in my head, you think about when Hogan came back. He dropped it to Taker, and whenever you have these nostalgia runs, they kind of put over the next star properly or whatever. So I think Edge should just go out on his back to somebody when he drops the title. The Rock, same thing, losing to Cena like that. So I think if you're going to do something like that, I prefer it if it's just a match where Edge puts somebody over. But it would be quite the moment, because everybody loves Edge. Edge is very beloved, and we're all just elated to see him back, and we're really bummed out about his injury. So if he comes back and wins the title in this great moment, and then Miz does that and beats him, that's a hell of a way to get some heat for the Miz. And of course, he'll be obnoxious as hell about it. And then he can say, hey, who's the ultimate opportunist now, kind of thing. He'd be great in that. So that would make for spectacular TV. I'm not saying it wouldn't. But for me, if I'm putting the belt on Edge, I'm having Edge lay down to somebody. Have Seth, no, not Seth Rollins, but somebody that's, a current major player on the roster to beat Edge. Not Randy Orton, not somebody maybe already established, maybe somebody else. No, Miz doesn't get a full year. He'll get the remaining time that Otis had. If they give the Miz a full year, that would be silly. It's got to be the remaining time. I don't think they've even said it on TV, but I would assume it's June. My thoughts on Hogan beating Triple H back in 2002, I didn't like it, especially when Triple H had just come back. He had that big ovation in Madison Square Garden and won the Royal Rumble, and then they re-signed Hogan. And I think as soon as he came back, Vince got bit by that nostalgia bug, and then he saw the reaction that Hogan got not only at WrestleMania, but then on TV, and then they switched him to red and yellow, and they put the belt on him, and I thought it was just really fast, and they didn't even need to do that. I thought Hogan could have came back for a run without needing the title, especially when they put Triple H over in such grand fashion. He's the new guy. They unified the two titles and gave him the new belt. And then 2 weeks later, he's dropping it and passing it back to Hogan. That was crazy to me. And then he turned heel. And then he won the world title. And by the end of the year, he started the year being arguably the most over guy because the fans missed him hard. We missed him in 2001. He was very, very much missed from that alliance or the invasion angle. He would have been a big help in that. So would have Chris Benoit and some other pieces there. So the fact that he wasn't there, I think a lot of fans, missed him, missed his work, and he came back and he was so over. And by the end of the year, they're Katie Vicking us and shit. What a difference, that year was from beginning to end for Triple H. And I was never really a fan of Hogan beating him like that. But Triple H did it proudly. He was happy to do it. And I was fine. Like, I didn't even mind the idea of Hogan having the title. It was the fact that he just, beat Triple H like that with all sorts of help. Taker got involved, and it wasn't a clean win. But still, I was like, man, that was fast. When has that ever happened in history? A guy wins the title in the main event of WrestleMania and loses at the next pay-per-view? I still think that's the only example of that, right? Roman versus John Cena at WrestleMania 38. Yeah, they gave that to us, a year or so ago, a couple years ago. Jinder Mahal paying back Randy Orton for murdering that one Singh brother on the announce table. I remember that. Is that the one where Orton even broke kayfabe on camera and he's like, I think I just killed that guy? That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Who do I think would be the next star to do a cinematic match? For you, it's Braun and Big Show. Oh, geez. Those two doing a cinematic match, so I guess it couldn't be any worse than what they would do in the ring. I don't know. I think The Fiend is going to have one coming up, I feel like. I don't know. Do I think the Lakers championship has an asterisk? Maybe, but not. They got the majority of that season done. And they had no COVID positive tests. NBA deserves a lot of credit for doing all of that without any tests. The virus didn't weaken any teams. Nobody, missed any games or anything like that. Everybody was there. And aside from not having fans and having home court advantages, they can really play a role in series and things like that. I think Lakers pretty much won that one fair and square. And they got lucky, too, with having some, we didn't even think they would face the Heat in the finals, and they would have a tougher road getting out of the West, too. So I don't think so. I think there's still an asterisk there because it's a weird season. It's the second one of LeBron's career because he won the title. His first title came in the strike season. So it's kind of the same deal, but they got most of the season done. So maybe it's a small asterisk. Not as big as the one in 2011 that LeBron had. Mike Maxon, you watched an old clip of Bobby and Perfect arguing about Royal Rumble 1992 and Perfect's contract on Primetime. Hilarious. Was that prior to Royal Rumble? Or it had to have been prior to it. What were they arguing about? I don't know if I remember that episode. That would have been during the roundtable days, I think, when they were doing the deal there with Vince moderating it. I think of the Primetime versions, Gorilla and Bobby were hands down the best. And then maybe my second favorite version was that one. I didn't so much like the studio version, although that was kind of memorable. And it got weird there where Vince started hosting it and he would wear those weird workout jumpsuits that were just really just bizarre colors on them and stuff. He looked like a damn fool out there. And he hosted that with Bobby Heenan. They had lots of guests, Jameson and all sorts of stuff. That was kind of funny, but I really kind of enjoyed that little sit down table conference room type of feel to it. With big hillbilly Jim wearing his overalls and no shirt in the office. That was awesome. Those were the days. Loomis and the Fiend in 4 years, that's way down the line. I don't know. Loomis is he ain't young as it is. I'd like to see it prior to that. Try to get Loomis over quicker, like within 2021. And put him on a collision course with The Fiend. That would be an interesting clash, too, you know, where The Fiend is so much theatrics. The Fiend is so many mind games and so, you know, the colors and the music and the mask and the presentation. And Dexter Loomis is incredibly bland. You know, he just wears brown taupe beige pants and, you know, blank stare on his face, very slow, methodical music, no crazy lights. And he certainly seems fearless, and he seems to be the one that likes to stalk others. That would be an interesting rivalry between characters there. I'd be into looking at that. No, DM, I don't think I've watched The Untold with Taker and Orton. No. We got to catch up on some of those. When am I off? Oh, I'm off on Wednesday to watch Halloween Havoc. I won't be up here doing a review of it, though, but I will be watching. So if you're on social media, shoot me a follow over at Good Mic Work, and we'll live tweet together. Also, you guys can smash that thumbs up for me. I'd appreciate it. And then this coming Saturday, I got a couple of videos in the works and some changes going on the channel, too, that I'm working on. But the next Patreon-sponsored review, I'm going to do it in the very beginning of November. We're going to review Beyond the Mat. I know I've talked about it throughout the years, a time or two in Q&As, things like that, but I've never done like kind of a full review on Beyond the Mat in all of these years. And I'll do that. I might even try to make that like a 2-part special and try to do one with Wrestling with Shadows as well. I kind of had that idea in my head. So that'll be coming in November. But then this coming Saturday, I don't know, for those of you who tuned in to my podcast last week, I mentioned that I was going to do a giveaway. I've got a pair of like really nice brand new computer speakers that I don't want to send back to Amazon, so I'm going to do a giveaway. But when I announced I was going to do it, I was like, oh, I got to figure out how to do a giveaway. And the more I've like looked into it, you know, about how to do YouTube giveaways, my intention was to do it where everybody could enter without having to do a super chat or whatever. But there's really no way to do that with the chat and stuff, you know, because I can't go back and really find everybody's comments and everything. And I suppose I could just upload a standalone video and then everybody in the comments got entered. So I'm trying to figure out a way to do that. I'm either going to raffle it off for like $1. Everybody, you know, just put in $1 super chat. Your name will go in once for every dollar you put in. I'll put you into a randomizer and pick it that way. Or I might just do it on social media. I might just do a Twitter one. Everybody like this post, and then I'll pick a winner on the podcast. So however I decide to do the giveaway, it'll be this Saturday. So keep a lookout for that. I haven't forgotten. But I thought it would be like easier. I thought that, you know, giveaways were so common, there'd be like a much simpler way to do it, but there's really not. There's a lot of work and stuff. I'm going to use a program to pick the winner so it can be random, but in terms of how to input those winners and stuff, or the entrance and everything, that's where it got a little bit tricky. So we're going to be doing that on Saturday. So keep a lookout for that for the Winged Eagle podcast. Yeah, to Beyond the Mat, I believe that came out, I want to say 98. Or no, 99, I'm sorry. 99 or 2000. And Wrestling with Shadows came out in 98. Wrestling with Shadows came out about a year after the Screw Job. I remember mailing a check. Mailing a physical, personal check to Canada and waiting, I don't know, maybe 5 weeks for the VHS copy of Beyond the Mat, or I'm sorry, of Wrestling with Shadows to come to my door. And it came out, I think, right after the Survivor Series 98, because I remember when The Rock won the title and Vince, you know, screwed Mankind in that whole situation. I remember, like, some of the dirt sheets, I think it might have been Meltzer at the time, said that was kind of a clever finish getting the jump on Brett's documentary. So I think it came out like right after Survivor Series of 98. And then most of the stuff for Beyond the Mat was filmed 97 through 99, right? And then they released it sometime in 99. So, and it was focused on Terry Funk, Mick Foley, New Jack, Jake the Snake. And that might have been it. The great and legendary, iconic Dennis Stamp on the trampoline. We're going to talk all about it. It's going to be a fun review to do. So keep a lookout for Beyond the Mat. And I think I want to do Wrestling with Shadows just for shits and gigs some point down the line. Yeah, I've got the VHS tape and DVD of Beyond the Mat, and I've got the VHS tape, DVD, and CD soundtrack of Wrestling with Shadows because I'm a psycho. Hey, I like that idea, Zane. You could have Tessa debut at the Royal Rumble. I don't know if she'd be an AJ Styles level of pop, but that would be a pretty big deal to bring her in and would be a good way for WWE to gauge how well known she actually is. You know, part of me still thinks, I've said this for the last 4 years, I have never been more surprised and more pleasantly surprised to see how WWE treated AJ Styles when he debuted in the Royal Rumble. When there was talk of him coming in to WWE, I was like, well, he's never going to be what he is in TNA, where he's like a big major player there, a cornerstone of the company, and you could even argue that he wasn't even treated that well there. And a lot of people considered him to be the best wrestler in the business. If he came into WWE, they wouldn't appreciate him as being that. And I think maybe that initial debut at the Royal Rumble convinced WWE, and more importantly, convinced Vince that fans know exactly who he is, and they're very happy to see him there. And then when he got in the ring and showed how good he was, WrestleMania match right out of the blocks there with Chris Jericho, performed well all year. By the time they got around to September, they're putting the belt on him. He's beating Dean Ambrose. So that was just so surprising to me. So if you bring in Tessa and you have her come out, you know, if the fans are going to have to react on social media because they're not going to be there in the arena unless it's a limited capacity type of deal. If they all freak for her, you know, maybe WWE will say, okay, you know, she's worthy of treating seriously. But the fans aren't there to make that determination. So it just depends. But Royal Rumble could be good. I just worry like doing it there in a Thunderdome setting would I guess it would be a little bit less impactful, you know, just with the announcers overselling it in their stupid overselling way. And of course they could pipe up the Thunderdome, but really you wouldn't get that authentic reaction. So I don't know, but I'm cool with her coming in, you know, I'm fine with that. Apparently she's an asshole, but some people have come out and said that she has said and done some horrific things, but there appears to still be some interest with her in wrestling companies despite all of that. So I don't know. Yeah, and I'm happy for AJ. I'm happy that he was able to come in, and once he got there and you saw how well WWE treated him, and it was almost like bittersweet. It's like, man, we're kind of catching AJ at the tail end here. If AJ would have known that WWE would have treated him like a main event player, he might have come in a long time ago. He might have come in 5 years prior to that, but you just didn't know. And I was one of those fans too. I agreed with everybody else who said, oh, if AJ comes to WWE, Vince isn't going to appreciate him. You know, that's probably a big reason why like Kenny Omega didn't sign. You know, because there's no guarantee that they're going to treat Kenny the way they treated AJ. AJ is that one, like, almost like exception to the rule. He is just not somebody that, the type of guy that I thought Vince would push, and they did, and they pushed him hard, and he won the title, putting him in feuds with John Cena. He's beating John Cena. He's a multi-time world champion. And it's incredible. I'm so glad that he was able to achieve that in WWE. Gave us hope, you know, for the future. And then again, there's some wrestlers that have equally good as ability as AJ Styles does, and what are they doing? They're doing what Mustafa Ali is doing on Retribution. In terms of AJ earning it, he certainly did. He put his time in. He was everywhere. Tessa is not a household name enough to debut at the Rumble. Maybe not. But I don't think she might not be a household name for sure. Not to the level that AJ was. But I certainly think you could debut her in the Rumble. In the Women's Rumble, in the same Rumble, you got Lana in and shit. I think it's fine to put her in there. But yeah, not as many people would know who she is. And then again, if you're going to debut her and she doesn't win, you know, I'm not sure if I do that either. Might be good just to stick her in NXT for a while. Put her there. Yeah, the Beyond the Mat stuff, it's going to be a weird tape because there were some lighthearted moments in there that I really liked, but for the most part, I kind of didn't like the picture that it painted of wrestling. I mean, I liked it a little bit because it really spoke loudly to, you know, some of the dedication, some of the professionalism, and the scale, you know, that a lot of this entertainment is on when they showed a lot of the stuff from the Royal Rumble and a lot of the WWE stuff. You know, but the underside of that was the Jake Roberts stuff, which was super disturbing, and where he was in his life around that time and how fucked up he was. And even some of the stories New Jack was telling, and then of course Terry Funk, who they chronicled his whole retirement match, the first of about 30 he would have, but WWE loaned Brett to go down there and work with him, and showing him after the match like coughing up blood and chugging a Budweiser at the same time. Like it just was like, God, is this what wrestling really is? That's why I think like the movie The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke was a good movie, but it didn't paint a very appealing picture for wrestling. I don't think it really did the business any favors, at the end of the day. And it's still bizarre to me that WWE took part in both of these. They took part in this and the Beyond the Wrestling with Shadows one from a couple of years back. Although I think Brett, that was more of a contractual negotiating thing with him. How they became a part of that, I'll never know. I don't think they were happy with it in the end because they never promoted it ever. Thanks for the $5, Deshaun Robinson. Fun fact, I attended the first Hell in a Cell pay-per-view in 2009. That was the first one, 09? Wow, Newark, New Jersey. Taker and Punk, DX versus Legacy, Cena and Orton. It was a deep card at the time. All three of those matches were in the cage? I barely remember that, man. 2009. I remember Taker and Punk. That was pretty good. Wow. First ever Hell in a Cell. I was at the first ever Kennel from Hell. I think I got you beat. The first and only Kennel from Hell. Yeah, professionally, I love AJ Styles. Personally, with his gay community and his flat Earth stuff, I think he's kind of an idiot. But I love to watch him wrestle, man. Yeah, there you go. Jan Cobb's got the right idea. WWE versus AEW Survivor Series would be dope. Who would be the teams? Who would be the top 5 talents on AEW side? You'd probably do Mox, Cody, Jericho, Kenny, Hangman, or something. That's probably what I would do. That's probably the exact 5 I would do. Maybe Archer, maybe Cage, but no, I'd probably do those 5. And then I put like the Young Bucks versus Street Profits, or Young Bucks versus New Day. And then so you do Mox, Jericho, Cody, Kenny, and Hangman to take on Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Matt Riddle, and Keith Lee. That'd be all right. Oh, wow, how Wheezy. Happy early birthday. Your 27th birthday is on Survivor Series Sunday. Do I have to sing to you? I will. I'll freestyle rap your birthday song on Survivor Series. Remind me. Fredo Carter. Hey, you were a question. Oh, wow. Way back in the day. You have been here. I remember you. Welcome back, dude. MJF versus The Miz. That's a great one. I forgot about MJF. I'd say you could put him on the AEW team, but no, MJF versus The Miz would be great. Bucks versus New Day, or Bucks versus Street Profits, but I think Bucks versus New Day would be more fun. Maybe take Cody and Moxley out of the teams so they can do title stuff. And you can put Cody against maybe Sami Zayn. Then you can have Moxley versus Roman. Take the champions out of the 5-man teams. And then Miz and MJF just for fun. You could do Big Swole and Cedric versus Britt and Adam Cole or something. I don't know. You can do all sorts of fun shit. I didn't know that Rhea Ripley's man is in AEW. I forget his name. I didn't know her boyfriend was there. Yep, I remember the debut. I don't remember much about the pay-per-view debut in 09, but I remember the Hell in a Cell in October of 97 very well. Seared on my brain. Yeah, I did. Oh, is that who she beat for the title? No, I thought that was what's his face? She beat who? Brian Cage? Tessa? I thought she beat what's his name? Sammy. And then plus I think NXT is a better spot for her if she does in fact have maybe a couple of personality traits that WWE wants to work on, being around there. And that coach training environment, being around all those legends that can not only, because you could argue she doesn't really need help in the ring, but maybe she needs help on, how to handle herself in this way, and how to work on trying to be a better person and shit like that. Maybe they can kind of put her there, work on her attitude, make sure her attitude is straight before they have her do anything on the main roster. And NXT is a good environment for that. You got a lot of people there, willing and hungry and wanting to learn. You can't just, be a prima donna down there. You're gonna get eaten. So probably be a good place for her to be. Cody loses to Maverick. Drake Maverick? All right. Zane Galoya, you win the random comment of the night. I miss going to Sears. I remember Sears. I remember as a kid the big Sears like wish book, catalogs and stuff that you would pick out your Christmas presents in. Yeah, Sears was a big deal. They were all over Michigan where I lived. Sears. There was even one here. There's even one really close to my house that just closed within the last few years. I used to get tires. I used to get my car worked on at Sears all the time back in the day. Wesley's got Brock showing up at the Royal Rumble, winning it, challenging The Fiend at WrestleMania for the title. So that'll mean The Fiend will be champ by then. Brock is going to have to be worked into the equation, and with the world title situation on Raw pretty cluttered right now, he'd add just another piece. Now you got Drew, now you got The Fiend, now you got Randy Orton, now you got The Miz with the briefcase, and you're adding Brock in there. Poor Miz. I wouldn't want anything to do with any of those guys. Could you imagine? That actually kind of sets Miz up in kind of a comical situation. He's got the briefcase, but everybody at the top right now are just killers. He's like, well, my choices are to cash in on Drew, Randy Orton, The Fiend, or Brock Lesnar. There is no right answer. Either way, it sucks, and either way, you're going to get your ass kicked. So it's in the Miz's best interest to hang back, and wait for a more vulnerable champion and opportunity to cash in. Man, they might actually put the pelt on him. I don't know. I worry about Brock as a surprise entrant, though, because anytime Brock shows up as a surprise, he wins. So that could definitely happen. Ooh, Finn Balor versus Kenny Omega. That's a good one, too. That would be fun. I wish I had more time to do some more live streams. That would be fun just to come up here and fantasy book an AEW and WWE Survivor Series card just for shits and gigs. Definitely MJF and Miz, and definitely Kenny Omega and Finn Balor would be incredible. Maybe Jake Hager and Carrion Cross. I don't know. Shit like that. Matches like that. I would definitely do something with Adam Cole. Who would Adam Cole face? Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, maybe one of them. Darby and Jeff Hardy would be good. Oh, Bryan and Omega. I forgot about Daniel Bryan. We got AJ to worry about, too. We got Matt Riddle to think about, too. Hey, Zane, you had the same idea as me. I talked about that. Miz shows up in NXT. He realizes, because think about the situation he's in. Look at these people he has to worry about on Raw. He's probably like, F this. I'm going to show up down in NXT and just cash in. And I laid out the whole scenario. I said, Balor comes out to the ring. He announces that the doctors have cleared him, but he won't have a match for a couple of more weeks when he officially gets back in the ring. But once he says the doctors cleared him, out comes The Miz, cashes in the briefcase, nails him in the jaw with the briefcase, puts Balor down, wins the title, and then he can be The Miz in NXT for a while. And the fans will be dying to get the belt off of him. And then as soon as Karrion Kross comes back, he beats The Miz in 6 seconds. That'd be fun. I don't know if Darby Allin versus Karrion Kross would be very good. Because Darby's good and everything, but he's not like an ass kicker. Darby's more of a he's more of a Jeff Hardy type. He's going to be swantoning and flying around the ring, where Karrion will just grab you, break you in half. So I don't know that match is as good, but Karrion Kross and Aleister Black would be good. Maybe Luchasaurus and Aleister Black. That might be good. They both got those kicks. Oh, Jake Hager and Bobby Lashley. I agree. That's better than Hager and Cross. Adam Cole versus Cody. I'd be totally down with that. Jericho and Owens. Yeah, Jericho versus Owens. That could work. Darby Allin versus Shane McMahon. Oh my God. Yeah, Shane may have met his match in a crazier bastard than him. That's a good one too. Those are all good ideas. Next year at WrestleMania, do Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. It's their last chance. You know, I always thought it was never going to be able to be done because WWE, I felt, have made Bobby Lashley look like a chump from the minute he's came back. However, I feel like he's reborn in the Hurt Business. I finally care a little bit about Bobby Lashley. I finally look at him as a legitimate killer. He's in there full Nelsoning fuckers to death in there. He's very dominant right now. He's been on a winning streak. He's got the title. He's been murdering Retribution members left and right. And he actually now feels like the biggest deal he's ever felt like in the company. The Hurt Business was perfect for him, and it was a perfect place to place him. I finally feel like he's found his place in the company because he's always just something's always been missing. You know, he didn't feel like that complete package. Now he does, and if he continues winning, that could even add some value, so to speak, to like the United States title. It could bring the the importance of that belt up if you have a guy like Lashley holding it for so long and so dominant. So hell, maybe Brock goes down a notch. Do you think Brock will ever win a secondary title in the WWE? Does he beat Lashley for the U.S. title at WrestleMania? Probably not, but he might. Might be and you're probably right. If they ever are going to do it, I question if they're ever going to do it. But if they are going to do it, then WrestleMania would be the time. This one, I don't know if they'll be able to do it another year after that. But I finally care about Lashley. I finally feel like he's doing a great job. And I'm a big Hurt Business fan. They're probably my favorite faction in the company. I like them. You know, since they got their match, now I think about it, since they got their match out of the way with Retribution, would you put him versus Undisputed Era at Survivor Series just for fun? That would be a weird match, though, too. I think Undisputed Era, they're so little, they'd get killed. Benjamin and Lashley would just eat those guys alive. Plus, it's 4-on-4, not 5-on-5. So you have to add somebody. And somebody mentioned to me, what's the next takeover? Somebody said it's not going to be War Games. That surprised me somewhat because it felt like with the Pat McAfee stuff, they're setting up for a War Games match. But maybe they're not. But if there's still a chance to have an NXT influence in Survivor Series, something like that might be fun. Wardlow versus... Oh, I forgot about Wardlow. Cage versus Lesnar. Cage might be better for Lashley than Lesnar. Wardlow... Who would I put Wardlow in there with? Because Wardlow versus Lesnar, the problem with that is as much as I like Wardlow, it's not like really a dream match. Lesnar would kill him. And Keith Lee I forgot about too. So, I mean, yeah, WWE's got this way stronger roster, that's for sure. Gotta think of a good opponent for Wardlow. Who's like him? Who's young and big like him? That's kind of new right now. Somebody like that. T-Bar. Wardlow versus T-Bar. That's what we do. Ooh, Andrade versus Pentagon. Yeah. That's a good one, too. I do Rey Fenix and Rey Mysterio. I do Billy Gunn's son and Dominic. I do Brian Pillman Jr. and who's somebody's son in the WWE. Who's a second generation person that'd be good to face Junior. Somebody with a Hart family. Maybe well no, they've already wrestled. They've been a team. You know, say bring somebody in. Oh yeah, and Braun we got to worry about. So maybe you do a big beefy. You call it the big beefy blast tag team extravaganza or something like that. And you put Strowman, Lee, Brock, or whoever else, or Lashley, and then you put them against Archer, Cage, Lucha, and just make it this, and Wardlow. Banks versus Baker. Sasha Banks would be good. JR versus Jerry Lawler. Wardlow with Damian Priest. There you go. That's an acceptable one. Pillman is tiny. He ain't that tiny. About the same size as his dad. But not quite as big and not quite as cut either. Who could do? Oh, you could do. Well, now he's not. Keith Lee would beat him. I say you could do Keith Lee against like a Will Hobbs or somebody, or bring Jeff Cobb in. I don't know. There's lots of good matches you could do. You got to do a Shield triple threat. Yeah, I'd probably. If there was a way to get the WWE title onto Seth, and you do Moxley, Seth, and Roman, all world champions facing each other. Oh shit, that would be amazing. Ooh, Charlotte Flair versus Britt. As much as I love Britt, I think Charlotte would be tapping her out. Alexa versus Anna Jay. Tony Khan versus Vinnie Mac. And we got December 20th date on TLC, so that'll be interesting too. And that might be your fourth Orton and Drew match. You never know. Russo versus Cornette, but they don't work for either company. That would be more of a WrestleMania thing. Russo versus Cornette, Japanese death match, C4 explosives, barbed wire, ropes, stun gun, nail gun, chainsaw. Teddy Hart could have been great if he didn't suck. Yeah, Teddy Hart is a piece of shit. Kid had so much talent. My God, imagine pissing it away like him. He's like the Roy Munson of wrestling. Matt versus Jeff. There you go. Usos versus Santana and Ortiz. I like that as well. Who would the best friends face? Oh, it sucks they broke up Heavy Machinery. I'd probably put best friends versus Tucker and Otis. But they're not friends anymore. You know, at some point, the best friends have to split in AEW. And when they do, it's going to be a huge moment. I want to see Sue like crying when it's all happening. That would be great. Big Swole versus Belair, maybe, but I think Bianca would kill her. I like Big Swole, but I really like Bianca. She's better. Now we got announcers going too. Shivani versus Tom Phillips. Yeah, Teddy Hart. He's Roy Munson. He's the Roy Munson of wrestling. Just an idiot. Dark Order versus Retribution. Man, I think Dark Order would beat him. I think Mr. Brody Lee would beat the hell out of Mr. T-Bone. Eddie Kingston, Kevin Owens. What about Eddie Kingston, Kofi Kingston? Stephanie versus Brandy. That's a good one too. Now, what if Vince really show up on Nitro and fight Bischoff? I don't know. I don't know if he would have shown up on Nitro. Maybe during the invasion with the tank or the Jeep. But Vince was challenged by Bischoff, but that was pay-per-view. It's either Slamboree or Spring Stampede. I ordered it, whatever it was. I remember watching it that night. Thunder Rosa versus Asuka. That would be good, but Asuka would kill her. I don't know, Pan. I think you got to go a little bit harder on the stipulation with those two. No DQ, false count anywhere. I think it's got to be worse. I think it's got to be like a lot worse, like a legitimate death match or an inferno. An inferno match would be good, but maybe like you don't have to just light your opponent on fire anywhere. You have to light their entire body on fire, or you have to light their face on fire. That would be a way to do it. You win the match by holding your opponent's face over the flame for 30 seconds straight, and then you're declared the winner. All right. Okay, cool. That looks like we got through all of that. We got through the results, hung out, answered some questions, had a nice 2-hour stream here. So I think I'm going to shut it down and get back to my night here. But keep a lookout this week. I might be able to get up here for some sort of a live stream. If not, you'll catch me on Saturday, and we'll talk about a lot because we'll have SmackDown to discuss. And we've got Halloween Havoc coming up in 2 days, along with a pretty stacked AEW Dynamite as well, and it'll be cool to see what the fallout is with Roman and Jay and Jimmy Uso this week on SmackDown. So we'll have plenty to talk about this coming Saturday. So keep a lookout for that. Otherwise, in the meantime, make sure you subscribe, like this video, share it, shoot me a follow over on Twitter at GoodMikeWork, and I will catch you guys in just a few days. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. Talk to you soon. Peace.